Welcome to Pep Talks, the Patient Engagement Podcast, the podcast that explores patient engagement in patient-oriented research. I'm your host, Sandra Zielinski, and in the upcoming episodes, we will be delving into the world of patient and community engagement research, or what is also referred to as PaCER. But first, what exactly is PaCER? PaCER is an online course delivered through the University of Calgary Continuing Education in partnership with the Alberta Spore Support Unit Patient Engagement Team. This unique certificate-based program, delivered over 12 months, empowers individuals with lived experiences in healthcare to learn peer-to-peer, qualitative research from conception to completion. At the core of PaCER lies a commitment to ensuring that the patient voice is not just heard, but integrated into every facet of the research process. From the very inception of research questions to the collection of data and knowledge sharing. So to give you a taste of what's to come, we'll be engaging in conversations with a diverse array of individuals involved in PaCER. Expect insights from the scientific director, instructors, graduates, and current students. Stay tuned as we cover all things PaCER over the next few episodes of Pep Talks, the Patient Engagement Podcast. In today's episode, I'm excited to introduce two exceptional guests, Dr. Maria Santana, the Academic Scientific Director for the PaCER program, Provincial Lead for the Alberta Spore Support Unit Patient Engagement Team, and a patient and family-centered care scientist. And we also have Ingrid Nielssen, who's the PaCER instructor and patient engagement coordinator for the Alberta Spore Support Unit Patient Engagement Team. Welcome, Maria and Ingrid. So, Maria, would you like to start off and share some of your experiences with PaCER and what led you to the program?
Well, thank you for the introduction, Sandra, and it's lovely to see you, Ingrid, and sharing this time with you two, talking about the PaCER program. My research team is the Person-Centered Care Research Team at the Cumming School of Medicine. And under that, one of the focus of the program is to engage people that have lived experience and members of our communities to bring their experiences to shape up the healthcare system. And so I think that it's only based on their experiences, the narrative, that we can really transform healthcare and made healthcare more meaningful and relevant to the needs, the values, and the preferences of the people that uses the healthcare system. And that meaningful engagement as partners, we work with them, we roll up our sleeves, and we work together in research projects. We write grants, we get funding, we work with the healthcare system to start that transformation. When I was appointed, the Provincial Lead at the PaCER program was already established, and it made sense that it came under my portfolio and leadership with the support of the founder, Dr. Nancy Marlette, dear colleague, and the other two key people in the development of the program, Tracy Wasilak and Dr. Deborah Marshall. And it's been fabulous to have their mentorship and learning from them and with them as we adopted the program. And the program, we were being very lucky to partner with continuing education and working closely with fantastic team at the continuing education with Sheila LeBlanc and her team. We have taken PaCER to a different level, to a national reach, where we train people from our communities, people with lived experience, to partner with us in health research. And I'm very happy and proud of the program, and I think it's very innovative.
Thanks for a great intro. We're excited to learn more about the PaCER program and get into a little bit more detail as well. But first, Ingrid, do you want to share a little bit about your experiences with PaCER and your role?
I'm the patient engagement coordinator for the Alberta Spore Support Unit. I've had that role since 2017. I also have a background in gender and social justice. When I was offered the opportunity to be the instructor for the PaCER program, I don't think I could accept it fast enough. I think it's exciting. PaCER serves as an opportunity for patient and community members to develop qualitative research skills. It's super helpful to ABS4U to have these patient and community partners trained and with experience in all aspects of a qualitative research project. As well, the projects themselves are super innovative and exciting, and the teams are amazing to work with. So yeah, really excited to share more about PaCER.
Yeah, thanks, Ingrid. And also excited that we'll be able to talk to some past PaCER graduates, as well as some current students in some upcoming episodes, so we can hear about that work that you're talking about. So let's talk a little bit more about the PaCER program.
Thanks, Sandra. So the PaCER program is an online 12-month certificate-based program. It's delivered through the University of Calgary Continuing Education in partnership with the Alberta Sports Support Unit Patient Engagement Team. PaCER students are recruited and they carry through the program in teams. Teams usually include 5 to 7 members from diverse backgrounds. PaCER is delivered over 3 courses. As Sandra mentioned, it's delivered online. The course 1, it takes 10 weeks. Students meet twice a week. The classes are an hour and a half long. The classes are recorded, so if students aren't able to attend, they can always watch the recording. The students go through the courses in teams, in sponsored teams. There's usually 5 to 7 members per team. So course 1 focuses on cementing the team. As well, it provides an overview of participatory health research methodology. And then the students learn various aspects of conducting a qualitative research project, such as academic literature review. They cover ethics, data collection, so learning how to co-develop a good interview question guide, possibly co-conducting interviews and facilitating focus groups. They also learn data analysis. So PaCER uses thematic and narrative analysis. In course 2, the 2 students go from a very broad research topic and follow this specific iterative process to develop a research question. And then for the rest of course 2, they design and develop a research protocol to answer that question. And then this protocol and the associated documents get submitted to REB, the Research Ethics Board at the University of Calgary. So there's a bit of a break between course 2 and course 3 for the ethics approval. And then in course 3, the students actually carry out this project and finish with an academically reviewed final report, which they share back to their sponsor.
The first course is that because usually these 6 to 7, sometimes 8 individuals don't know each other at all. It's not like a regular academic course that the kids go through all the grades and they make their friends and they group organically. In this case, these are completely, they don't know from nowhere, right? And so that cementing that Ingrid talked about is super, super important. And I would like to bring that to the attention, because it's just developing that relational piece to, hey, for a year, we're going to be working together on something that is relevant to all of us, and not only to one of you, but all of us. So how do we get there? And I think one of the brilliant pieces on the program that is unique is the fact that cementing happened in when they start learning together and start thinking about developing the pieces for the puzzle that is coming, right? They learn about the ethics and all of that, but I think it's at the point where in second course, they start thinking about how do we put that research question together? What is a research question? How all the things that we want to do, how do we put it in one question? That's a big challenge for many people, right? And me as a researcher, I always thought it was one of the most difficult things. I know I have the overall idea, but how do I clean it and refine it to the questions? And it's interesting to see how they go through this process. But it's brilliant the way they conducted the discussions with other people similar to them that they bring in to discuss and start refining that question in the set part of the project, right? That kind of partnership that they start developing. People that have similar experiences, or maybe not, but similar health condition, right? And they have different experiences, but they want to encapsulate all of that in that research question that is really relevant to that little group, right? That Ingrid said that very eloquently, that they bring the lived experience, that they have diverse backgrounds. How do you bring all these complex, needs, their experiences to the research, and how they work together and refine that question and start the journey through the research circle till the end, till they produce that final report that every time I get them to, because I meet with them throughout, but when I get the final report, I get really excited, because I go like, oh my God, it's the final. They work so hard on it, right? And I would say most of it is just brilliant. It's brilliant work. And the proof is that now the academic level is that high that we have been able to publish it, right, in peer-reviewed journals.
Just jumping back a little bit to what Maria was mentioning, I think that is the challenge. We take these people with diverse backgrounds, diverse lived experiences, diverse professional backgrounds, and we ask them to work together collectively on a project. So of course there's going to be crunchy moments and different times, but I think that's it's working through that. And I think the biggest thing to remember about PaCER and about research is it is a process. Science is a systematic process. One of the most commonly used expressions that the team supports now say to the students is trust the process. So exactly what you were talking about. So PaCER is also about learning about perspectives outside of your own experiences. There's a lot of reflexivity in PaCER because it is community-based research. There's a lot of reflexive activities, reflexivity, also critical thinking skills that we encourage. So the projects and the assignments in course one tend to focus on reflexivity and critical thinking and looking at bias and trying to gain an understanding of additional to your own perspectives. And then, yes, as part of the process, it is a very specific process to hone your research topic to the specific research question. I think there's 9 steps that the students go through. And so the other unique aspect of PaCER is that it's based on this process of set, collect, and reflect. And the purpose of these 3 stages is to integrate the patient and community perspective into the whole research process. So basically, the students will do an academic literature review on their topic, sort of identify some gaps, and then they'll follow this specific process to come up with their research question. They'll design their project. They'll probably identify some pieces like the participant inclusion criteria. So the characteristics of the people that they want to answer their research question. They might have some ideas on their interview or focus group questions. They'll have what we call a set discussion group. So this includes previous PaCER students, some patient partners, and they'll ask them, they'll share their research question and they'll ask for feedback about relevancy, language, is it appropriate? Does it even matter to people? And then they might share some characteristics of their participants, and then they'll the set partners might say, oh, did you consider this or did you consider that? They might get some ideas on the focus group delivery. So if you're working with a unique population, there might be some considerations about how you're going to include them, such as times of the focus groups or pieces like that. And then they'll take all this feedback and include it in their research protocol. And then when they do their collect focus groups and interviews, after this, they do their thematic and narrative analysis. They'll identify some key themes. And then they share this back in a reflect focus group with the collect participants. So it's essentially the member checking. Did we capture what you intended to say? Are we sharing this in ways that are representative and respectful? So then after the reflect focus group, they incorporate any feedback. They might have some specific recommendations, and then all these get rolled into this final report that they share back with the sponsor. And these final reports are quite detailed. They'll include the background, the methods, the results, and the recommendations. Often these final reports can become the basis for a manuscript or conference poster presentations. So it is definitely rigorous because it is qualitative research. And we also have to consider, have ethical considerations about the students and the ways that they work together, and then also the participants that come and share their stories and experiences, trusting that the work that we do will move forward.
Yeah, and the rigor also comes from the fact that we have to go through the ethics board, right, and get approval from the university.
If you have people with lived experience and maybe not an academic background, how are they submitting their proposal to ethics to conduct the research?
So all the students have to take the TCPS2 core course to collect with and work with data from human participants.
And that course is the course that is available through the University of Calgary through the ethics board. So they learn about it, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's a great skill that they get under their belt, and they develop that capacity and competency. Yes, so they know how to go through what kind of considerations they need to take into account to complete the application, how the process is. They have to wait for approval. That sometimes the ethics board comes to you and say, hey, I need more information about this. Can you clarify? So then, that they're aware of the process. And then, of course, we have members of our team that support the project. So the students are not let alone at any point in time. They do have support teams. And I know, Ingrid, you can talk a little bit more in detail about maybe about the sponsor structure and then the support teams, right? And the role of the support teams. Yeah. And then us, the academic background.
So typically a sponsor can be Alberta Health Services. It can be a patient or community organization that wants to capture unique patient perception or perspective on something. More recently, we've had research teams and labs and projects who have sponsored a PaCER team, both for the research evidence, the peer-to-peer evidence that the team will generate, as well as to inform a larger project. So sometimes a research team might sponsor a PaCER team to pilot a project sort of on a smaller scale. So to identify best practices for recruitment, maybe co-develop an interview and test an interviewer question group guide, look at some of the key findings and recommendations, develop a code book for future analysis. So these sponsors will sponsor a PaCER team. Often they have already some students in mind. Sometimes they don't have enough students in mind, so they'll ask Gabs for you, and we can support recruitment of PaCER teams. The sponsor is they generally provide the research topic, but then support the students and trust the PaCER process to distill this down to a specific research question that will matter, that is also manageable, because don't forget, PaCER is done in the course of a year, and carrying out the projects really only has 4-month timeline. So these have to be, there is a finite timeline. So the project has to be manageable as well. And sponsors often support the participant recruitment as well. They tend to be quite enthusiastic about the teams publishing and presenting on the findings down the road. So they've been, extremely instrumental in sharing both the processes of the PaCER program or PaCER projects, as well as the outputs of the project.
Is it the sponsors that pay for students to take the program? And then I guess the follow-up question to that is, what if you have one person or an individual who's interested in PaCER? How do you match them to the program, or how do you, help to support them to take the program?
The current structure of the program wouldn't cater for one individual. Now, if we have people that said, oh, I'm very interested in taking PaCER, how do I go around? It's only me, and I don't have a sponsor, and I don't have money to pay for it. So then we do have channels to contact people and say, hey, there is 1 or 2 individuals interested in this, so we can contact perhaps the research director of an institute, for example, right? A scientific institute. I'm thinking the Institute for Public Health. And we said, there is this individual interested. Any of you would like to put forward a PaCER team and that we could include this individual or keep it in mind for future, but it's not that we could immediately say, yeah, go register and then you are on.
So it's got a little bit of a networking type thing where maybe not a formal list, but you kind of know if somebody's interested, that, you sort of let them know if there's a cohort that comes up that is a good fit, we can circle back and let you know, or let the sponsor know as well. And that becomes part of the recruitment process.
Yeah.
And the teams, and it is important that the students on the team have lived experience of the health topic being covered, but that can be quite broad too sometimes. So we do have teams that integrate caregivers or family members, or people with different lived experiences of the similar, because we are looking for that diversity of perspective. And also it's almost an intersectional approach, because somehow organically the teams seem to work out, that there's one team member that's especially skilled at working in Excel or Zoom. There's other team members that are exceptionally skilled at facilitating focus groups and even facilitating the teams. And then there's one that's always, seems to take the lead on keeping the team connected on WhatsApp or whatever, wherever they choose. So somehow it does seem to work out organically that the teams can come together and provide these different perspectives to make a more wholesome project.
So in PaCER, my understanding too is it's a very diverse group of people with lived experience, but like lived experience with a health condition or healthcare experience, but also their professional backgrounds vary so much. Yeah, I guess that leads me to think about, like, are there other prerequisites for students to take the course other than their lived experience?
I mean, one of the considerations is that they have to be fluid in English. Like they need to read and write English and to have that level. Then another consideration is that if you are very sick, right, that if you live in tremendous pain and you cannot commit to the 2 hours and a big classes, like they're virtual, but it's a commitment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people need to be a little bit aware of that commitment. Because in terms of resources, Ingrid, we do have the liaisons and the support teams that help them. They need to have computers. But then if they lack of basic knowledge, managing, courses in a computer and so on, we do have the supports to help them to get there. As long as they're willing, to learn and to go through it, there are people helping them.
Mm-hmm.
PaCER is delivered through D2L. And so the 2 prerequisites are that they have a computer and access to reliable internet. And so we have had people that have never used Word or accessed the UCalgary library or used Zoom. And then we have other students who are highly proficient in all of those pieces, but maybe never actually got ever to use a qualitative research lens. So they do come from these different levels of tech skills and expertise. But the whole point of PaCER is that it's a safe space to learn and practice these skills. So we really, it's a co-learning environment. We really encourage people to try. So my favorite word is yet. And my daughter hates it when I use it, but the PaCER students are still okay with it. So if they say, I don't know how to use Zoom, I'll say yet. So then we'll stop and we'll practice. And usually there's something every class, one of the students will share with me, oh no, Ingrid, you could do it this way. It's way easier. Or if somebody isn't, Qualitrix is a survey program that we use, and we've got some students that have been exceptional, and going online to the University of Calgary has some great little Zoom videos on how to use Qualtrics, and they figured it out, and then the gaps, somebody else will step in and fill in the gap for them. And so we really encourage the students to get confidence, and there are no mistakes, and also we're as Maria mentioned, we have team supports that help with the different tech aspects. But the biggest thing is that they are part of a team. We're a part of this co-learning environment. And so if something is stressing you, don't spend more than 10 or 15 minutes. It's probably the technology, or there's probably a simple, quick, easy fix. Just reach out and get, because the other great thing is that we know the students will pay it forward. Once they've had somebody help them or show them how to work through something, they're going to share it with other teams that they work on as well. So that's a really big part of PaCER. The data collection is through interviews and focus groups. We really encourage the students to do one interview and co-facilitate one focus group. Whatever you're interested in, try it here, because then you don't have to figure it out when you're on a research team. And who knows, it may just be the PaCER student on the research team that teaches the research team how to use the phone feature of Zoom, or how to use this other. So the more that we can practice and work together, the better ecology for all of us. So
I think one of the good things also for the PaCER students is that they have an email from the University of Calgary. And so what Ingrid is saying is that all the resources and the support that they have on top of it, they have access to anything that any student at the U of C, the University of Calgary, have, right? And this is fantastic, because this, is a 1-year certificate course that gives you access to great resources, support, right? Learnings as much as you can, as Ingrid said, not yet.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. And a lot of those would be barriers, because everything costs money. Microsoft Office Suite costs money. Zoom costs money. And so if you're looking to engage diverse people from various backgrounds of lived experience, those all can end up being barriers to, properly doing their work and learning in these different platforms. So
Ingrid teaches in the evenings, so people can have regular jobs, right? And that open spaces for people to come and do the course as well, and build that capacity within the community. Yeah.
Oh no, and we're super kid friendly. I'm always amazed at how many kids pop on Zoom to wave to the class, because they're so curious what their parents are doing from 5 to 6:30 instead of making them supper. But they're also super, I'm amazed at how supportive children and spouses are of their parents or their partner doing the PaCER program. And I think we had an event on September 9th, and we aim to recognize, because it is the last PaCER team, we literally had every time zone from PST in the Yukon to Newfoundland. So 5 to 6:30 Mountain Time seemed to work, except for the Newfoundland person. It's really late at the end of the day. But so we had an event on September 9th where we just really wanted to say thank you as well to the families of the PaCER students for doing this. And as far as the UCalgary address, we had one student, and he was just so thrilled, because the UCalgary access, library access, meant he didn't have to pay for reading the New York Times. So it's a chance for people to grow, because you don't know what you don't know, and the question itself, the research question, the project, the outcome, the transformation for all those pieces is going to look so different at the end than when people even anticipated. But it's just going through the processes and staying through the processes, and just, even if something seems crunchy or awful or overwhelming, just keep going, because it will be better. And that's what I encourage the students. If you're having a health flare-up or an issue, just keep going, just take a break and then come back, because I would say that is one drawback of the way that PaCER is delivered, is essentially that you do course 1, and then you develop your research protocol in course 2, and then you carry out the project in course 3. And it's, you've done all that work in the first 2 courses. It would be a shame to not finish in course 3, because it's not like you can go back and join another team for their course 3, because you really have to be part of the whole thing. So when Maria mentioned the year-long commitment, that is important. We can be flexible and adaptable, people contributing different ways, but it is something to keep in mind, is that it will be really important to be able to go right through to the end of the program, because it isn't something that you can save as you go along. You have to be part of that whole team. So
yeah. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about some of the opportunities or pathways that are available for people after they graduate from the PaCER program. Like, what do people do with this program?
Yeah. Okay. I'll give one example, Ingrid, and then you can provide more. Yeah. No. Just to say that traditionally, these patients, because they have sponsors, they usually work with the sponsors for longer, right? As part of the patient advisory council. And that I would say that was like the first phase of the PaCER graduate. But as we have been training them in the last few years, I've seen PaCERs being part of opportunities like the level of Ministry of Health, committees at the level of Ministry of Health to review grant applications or to inform some research programs. Some of them work within the Health Quality Council, informing quality improvement initiatives. So, as advisors there. So then now we have the governance level, where we have the government, we have Alberta Health Services, which is the health authority, and then we have the Health Quality Council, so more the quality improvement aspect of the healthcare system, patient safety issues and so on. At the other level, I think, is, for example, researchers that have research programs, and they bring it into that research programs to keep the partnership and working with them. And I don't know, Ingrid, if you can provide examples of that. We do have, and Ingrid does a good job, leading the aspect of advertising opportunities for research from researchers and research programs and the government. We just did have today an email from government asking for PaCERs for a specific project. And so Ingrid advertised these opportunities among PaCERs and other members of the community, to bring them to work with us, to inform, to again transform healthcare system.
And Ingrid, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, they can also become lead patient research partners for the Alberta Sports Support Unit patient engagement team. They can also be podcast hosts. They can work on various other projects. We have several PaCER students and graduates that are international medical graduates. So they're looking to do clinical research and community-based research. So PaCER has been super helpful for them to establish their skills and careers. More and more, we also have undergrad and graduate students. So this has been helpful to sort of transform the trajectory of their academic backgrounds. We have an amazing group of youth going through right now. They're doing a really interesting project on the experiences of young people living with chronic illness and attending or trying to attend post-secondary education. So the results from this study will inform accessibility offices at the different universities that are more tailored to accommodations for more physical visible disabilities. So I think that will be an extremely innovative project with really useful evidence from it. So we have graduate and undergraduate students, and so this PaCER is really helpful for them to sort of carry out their own projects.
And you touch on Sandra Zelinsky, who is the host of the pep talks. And she's a PaCER graduate and many other things among that.
Thanks for bringing that up. I'll use this for a little plug as well. So yes, I graduated from the PaCER program in 2014. So that's how long the PaCER, I was the second cohort. So I think the very first cohort started in 2012 and they graduated in 2013. So it's been around for a little while now. We have also interviewed a few people, including myself. I talk a little bit about PaCER and just sort of patient partnership in general in another Pep Talks episode. But we also talked to Jean Miller, who was an original PaCER grad, and a few other PaCER grads in some previous episodes. But really excited to also, because in those episodes, we also just sort of talk about the general experience of going through the program. And I think the idea for these next few episodes that we're going to interview current students as well as past grads and actually learn more about the research that they're conducting and have that opportunity for them to share the work that they're doing, almost a little bit like knowledge translation, but not necessarily at like an academic conference or a publication where the general public can really learn about the research that's being done as well. So I think this is a good time to segue into maybe a very last question for each of you to answer. And that is, from your experiences, maybe identify one or two things that have been the most rewarding aspect of being involved with PaCER.
For me is to meet them at the beginning and sometimes meet with them ad hoc. I don't know, Ingrid brings me in, for example, when they're developing the research question. And I really like working with them, and getting to know them. But the final product, I know they go through the journey. The final product is always such an exciting moment. And it leaves me so like, oh my God, this is brilliant. Look at the work that they have done. And just and through it, just to see the engagement going through the the up and downs that they go through, whatever, but that journey is really lovely. But I think like the final product, when I see that and I go like, wow, yeah, I wish that some of my grad students would have done such a good job.
Great, thanks for sharing, Maria. How about you, Ingrid?
I would say the same, the projects, and I would just the projects and the work that the students put in, and then the fact that at the end it's, yes, we did this. And I think the Indigenous Honoring Life project, that was one that was really unique. Just that it's the second phase of a project. It had so many challenges, but the project was about resilience. And I think that team was incredibly resilient. And the output, the processes they went through, and this final output. And I think it was also the realization that the process is the product, and we needed to go through these processes to have this incredible product at the end. So the project's finished with a graphic illustration of the learnings and the findings, and in so many ways it's really unique and special. It's going to be a really special way of doing Reflect, because instead of having the focus group and sharing text, we'll be sharing the graphic illustration back with the participants and then getting their feedback that way. So it also speaks to the way that PaCER can be adaptive and innovative and flexible and really sort of continue to move ahead. So I would say that the best part is the projects, and that just the respect in time and space that I've been given as an instructor to allow the processes to happen in meaningful and authentic ways, I think has been the best part for me.
Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Pep Talks, the Patient Engagement Podcast, brought to you by the Alberta Strategy for Patient-Oriented Research Patient Engagement Team. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you found it, and we hope you'll join us again for more interesting discussions about patient engagement in health research and healthcare.